You know this pattern almost by heart. You meet someone, maybe on an app, at a party, through friends. The first interaction feels different. The jokes land, the eye contact lingers a little too long. And for once you're not forcing the conversation. You go home that night with your phone still warm in your hand, scrolling back through the chat like it's a trailer for a better future. The next few days are a dopamine drip. You open your phone and there they are. Good morning texts, memes, long replies. We should hang out. You're replying fast, they're replying fast, and your brain is already 10 moves ahead, imagining what this could become. Maybe you go on a date or two. You talk for hours, you walk home grinning at nothing. You think, okay, this one is real. Then it starts. Quietly. No explosion. No big argument. Just a tiny drop in energy. Where they used to reply in minutes, it's now an hour. Where you used to get paragraphs, you're getting lol and sounds good. The conversation shifts from them asking questions to you carrying it. You tell yourself not to overthink it. Everyone gets busy, right? But it keeps sliding. Messages come later and later. Sometimes not at all unless you start them. You notice they're active online, posting stories, replying to others, but your chat is collecting dust. You feel that knot in your chest, so you double down. You reread old messages, looking for the moment everything changed. You zoom in on screenshots you sent your friends, asking, "Do you think I said something wrong here?" Your brain starts writing protective fan fiction. They must be stressed. Maybe something happened in their family. Maybe they're just scared of how much they like me. You ignore the obvious. Interest has dropped. Instead, you send the classic text, the Hail Mary of the ignored, "Hey, are you okay?" Or, "You've been kinda distant. Is everything all right?" You watch the double check marks appear. You see them online. Maybe you see them watch your story. Hours pass. Days. There is no answer. The chat flatlines. No goodbye. No explanation. Just digital rigor mortis. And you're left staring at a dead conversation, trying to give CPR to someone who has already walked off the battlefield. Here's the brutal part. Ghosting doesn't start with that final silence. It starts with the first tiny signal you refused to see. Every delayed response you excused. Every lukewarm answer you treated like enthusiasm. Every time you chased harder instead of noticing they were already pulling away. You were building the runway for them to take off without a word. Ghosting is often a strategic move, even if it's cowardly. It's someone looking at the situation and thinking, if I tell him I'm not interested, I'll have to deal with his emotions, explanations, maybe guilt trips. If I just vanish, I don't. And your behavior, your overinvestment, your clinginess, your inability to take subtle hints, makes disappearing the lowest cost option. To understand why people choose that option with you specifically, you have to zoom out. This isn't just about one person and one chat. It's about the environment you're playing in, a modern social jungle where attention is currency, options look infinite, and almost nobody is trained to handle conflict like an adult. Once you see that jungle for what it is, ghosting stops being a random curse and starts looking like what it really is, a move on a very specific kind of board. You're not dating in a village where everyone knows everyone and reputation is life or death. You're dating in a digital jungle where a swipe can replace a person faster than you can type. Hey, that's the environment you keep forgetting. You still think in fairy tale terms. Why had a connection? How could they just vanish? The answer is simple and ugly because they can. You live in a ruthless attention market. The human brain was never built to handle a conveyor belt of faces, matches and DMs. But that's what apps give you, the illusion of infinite options. In a world where there is always someone else out there, the cost of dropping you without a word feels low. There are no social consequences, no angry family, no shared village, just mute. Block. On match. Now add a Machiavellian lens. Machiavelli didn't romanticize people. He reduced them to three engines: fear, desire, and self-interest. People want maximum reward, minimum discomfort, and protection of their own image. If closing things with you requires an uncomfortable talk, seeing you upset, dealing with your questions or guilt, and the alternative is one silent tap that avoids all of that, what do you think most half-mature, conflict, avoidant people will pick? You tell yourself a story. They ghosted me because I'm worthless. I'm not enough. Something is fundamentally wrong with me. That's your ego taking the rejection and turning it into an identity wound. The colder reality, most of the time, is less grand and more insulting. They just didn't see enough upside to justify the effort of a real conversation. The reward you represented wasn't big enough to outweigh the awkwardness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. You don't control whether someone ghosts you. You control what you do with that information. A Stoic doesn't take it as a verdict on his soul. He takes it as data about the other person and brutally about himself. What signals did I send? What kind of energy did I bring that made silence feel easier than honesty? Most people will never ask that. They'll keep shouting, "People are trash," into the void, then repeat the same behaviors that make them high-friction, low-reward connections. They want loyalty in a jungle they no longer understand. You're not here for that. You're here to see the strings. In the rest of this video, we're going to strip ghosting down to 7 specific laws, 7 patterns in your behavior and in the game itself that make you easy to vanish on. Once you see them, you stop being the confused prey who wonders why the predator ran away, and you start acting like someone it's actually expensive to disappear on. You love to say, "I just want people to be straight with me. If you're not interested, tell me to my face." It sounds mature. It's suena adulto. But if you rewind your own history, the story changes fast. Think about the last time someone actually did that, when they said, "I don't feel the same. I don't see this going anywhere." Or, "I don't want to keep talking." Did you nod, say, "Thanks for being honest," and move on? Or did you argue, send follow-up paragraphs, ask for reasons, try to convince them they were wrong about their own feelings? Did you turn a clean no into a third-day emotional hostage situation? Most people who get ghosted a lot have this in common. They think they're ready for honesty, but every time they get it, they punish it. People learn. If someone senses that telling you the truth will trigger drama, guilt, or a debate they never signed up for, ghosting starts to look like the safer, quieter option. Is it cowardly? Yes. Is it understandable in a world full of emotionally explosive, boundary-blind people? Also yes. Most viewers will never swallow this. It's easier to label everyone who ghosts as immature and toxic than to admit, "I act in a way that makes honesty risky and disappearance attractive." If to sigues are he, vas a seguir comiendo silencio. You're not here for that. You're here to see the patterns. From now on, we're going to break down 7 specific behaviors that make you the perfect ghosting target and the Machiavellian, strategic alternative to each one. Law 1, you're too easy to ignore. Asymmetrical investment. Ghosting loves an unbalanced equation. The wider the gap between what you give and what they give, the easier it is for them to walk away and let you drown in your own effort. You think effort proves you're serious. In a brutal market, effort mostly proves one thing: who needs humora. Look at your chats. You send a long, thoughtful message, 3, 4 lines, maybe a voice note. They answer with aha, a single emoji, or nice. You propose a specific planned day, time, place. They reply with, "We'll see," "I'll let you know," or they dodge the question completely. That's not equal investment. That's you doing the lifting while they enjoy the ride. Micro scenario, you text, "Hey, I had a great time the other night. Would love to see you again. Maybe Thursday. They reply 6 hours later. Oh, thanks. This week is crazy lol. You answer, no worries, when works for you. Silence. Next day you send a meme. They react with a heart. You interpret the heart as hope and message again. From their side, this is perfect. They get validation and entertainment with extras, zero obligation. Another, you're always the one starting conversations. Days when you don't text, things are dead. Instead of taking that as a signal, you panic and text more often, more intensely. You send good morning, good night, check-ins. They give you crumbs when they're bored, knowing you'll still be there when they feel like it. Why would they bother with an honest, I'm not really into this? There's no need. They're already getting all the upside with none of the awkwardness. Here's the rule. When your effort is 100 and theirs is 10, ghosting is cheap for them and devastating only for you. You've already built the pattern where you do everything. They don't owe you consistency because you trained them to see you as a bottomless source of attention. Disappearing is just stopping consuming it. The Machiavellian alternative is simple, but it hurts your ego. Hydras calibrate and match investment. If their replies get shorter, yours get shorter. If they take hours or days, you stop responding in seconds. If they never initiate, you stop initiating as frequently. You're not playing games, you're mirroring reality instead of trying to rewrite it with more effort. This is an identity shift. You stop being the guy who begs for attention with walls of text and start being the man whose time and energy are too expensive to waste on people who aren't showing up. People can still ghost you, but now they're walking away from someone who clearly didn't need to chase them in the first place. Law 2, clingy emotion. People flee those who don't know how to let go. Ghosting isn't just about how much you text. It's about the why's harsh weight behind every text. You can send 2 messages a day and still radiate neediness if each one carries this unspoken line. Please don't leave. Please don't change. Please don't stop liking me. You know the pattern. You check the chat every few minutes, just in case. You see they were online but didn't reply, and your stomach drops. You start scanning their words for hidden meaning. They used one less heart emoji. They didn't say good night, like siempre. Something's wrong. So you do what to insider tipide. You ask, did I do something wrong? Are you mad at me? You've been distant lately. Did I say something? Maybe once could be okay, but you repeat it again and again. Any tiny shift in tone or response time becomes a full emotional investigation. You're not reading them, you're interrogating them. From their side, the signal is loud and clear. If I ever tell this person I'm out, it's going to be a mess. They imagine arguments, long paragraphs, guilt trips, maybe you showing up where no one to invite. They've met people like that before. They've tried honest endings before. It ended in drama. So what's the safest move this time? Exactly, vanish. From a darker psychology perspective, ghosting is the path of the ear's least resistance. When someone senses you can't emotionally handle a no, it isn't noble, but it's predictable. They're not just escaping you, they're escaping your future reaction. The alternative isn't to pretend you don't care. It's to project that's relative detachment. That means you like them, you're engaged, pero tu mundo no depende de su respuesta. You're busy, you're building things. If they pull back, you don't immediately chase the gap with, what's wrong? You let the gap exist. You might send one clear, grounded message if something really shifts. I'm sensing you're not that into this. If that's the case, it's okay. And then you respect your own words by not following it up with 5 more. When you behave like someone who can let go, 2 things happen. Oh no, you become safer to reject honestly, so people need menos ghosting contigo. Dos, paradoxically, you become más atractivo. Because emotional self-control is rare, most people are drowning in their own reactions. When they meet someone who can feel disappointment without begging, without exploding, without chasing, they notice. And that's the kind of man it's harder to disappear on without at least thinking twice. Law 3, no frame of your own. You let them define everything. Ghosting thrives in fog. The less defined the thing is between you, the easier it is to walk out of it like it never existed. And a lot of that fog comes from you. You slide into situationships with zero frame. You never say what you want, what you don't want, or what you're actually available for. You just go with it. So they decide what this is. They decide when you talk, how you talk, and on what terms you see each other. If they only text at midnight when they're bored, you accept that slot because at least it's something. If they cancel 3 times in a row, you swallow it because I don't want to seem intense. Months go by. You're invested. They're entertained. No labels, no agreements, no structure. Micro scenario. You've been chatting for weeks. You never once ask, "What are you looking for?" Because you're scared the answer won't be what you want. You don't state your own intent either. You just hope it will magically turn into a relationship if you're nice enough. From their side, this is perfect limbo. All the validation of having someone around, none of the responsibility. If they disappear, they'll tell themselves and their friends, "I didn't owe him anything. It wasn't serious." Another, they only hit you up late, never plan ahead, and you still jump. You're auditioning for a real role while they've clearly cast you as background. You endure flaking, reschedules, and vague, "we'll see," answers with zero pushback. You're teaching them that your standard is, "Whatever you give me, I'll take." If there's no defined container, there's no sense of breaking anything when they vanish. A Machiavellian doesn't cling to fog. He sets up ours frame, not with a big speech about, "What are we?" on date 1, but with simple, lived boundaries. This is the kind of interaction I'm available for. This is what I don't play. Maybe that means you don't respond to 2 a.m. texts if you want something sober and real. Maybe it means after a couple of last-minute cancellations, you say, "Seems like it's not a priority for you to meet. No hard feelings. I'm going to move on." And then you actually do. When you define and live your frame quietly, 2 things happen. 1, the people who were always going to treat you as a disposable option self-select out early. Yes, sometimes by ghosting. Good, that's efficient. 2, the ones who stay start to calibrate to you. They feel there is a structure, that your time has gravity, that bailing or fading on you means something. Ghosting is easiest on someone who stands for nothing and accepts everything. Once you have a frame, you stop being the vague extra in someone else's story and start being a man other people either step up to meet or lose access to. Law 4, heavy energy. You feel like work, not like opportunity. Most people don't ghost the person they're excited to talk to. They ghost the person who, over time, started to feel like zero's work. And heavy energy is work, emotional demands, constant negativity, zero purpose of your own, todo eso pisa. At first they tolerate it. Then they start opening your chat and thinking, "I'm not in the mood for this right now." Eventually, they stop opening it at all. You've seen this pattern in yourself. You match with someone and on day 3 you're already unloading childhood trauma, ex-stories, how solo te sientes, how nadie te entiende. You use DMs as therapy. Every small setback in your life becomes a long rant. You won't believe what happened at work. "I'm so sick of everything. The world is horrible." You think you're being real and deep. From their side, they're carrying a stranger's backpack. Micro scenario, they text, "How's your day?" Expecting, "Pretty good, you." And you reply with 5 paragraphs about how your boss hates you. Your friends don't te apoyan, why too familiar as un desastre. Another, they send a meme and you answer with, "lol," followed by, "Honestly, I don't even know why sigo aki todo is una mierda. That's not flirting. That's a cry for help disguised as conversation. Dark truth, most people are already drowning in their own life. They're not auditioning to be your full-time, emotional support animal. When your presence is consistently linked to tension, complaint, or crisis, ghosting becomes the path of least resistance. It's not noble, but it's predictable. The alternative is a stoic containment with new people. You don't fake happiness, but you also don't dump the full weight of your unresolved life into someone who hasn't earned that level of access. You share lightly at first. You keep the heavier layers for proven connections, close friends, a mentor, a therapist, tu proprio quaderno. And most importantly, you build your own purpose so you're not using every chat as a distraction from an empty existence. When your days están llenos de trabajo real, desarrollo, entrenamiento, proyectos, you naturally bring lighter, more grounded energy into conversations. You stop being someone to escape from and start being someone it actually feels good and rare to keep around. Law 5, you sell yourself cheap and fast. In any market, what's abundant and easy to get is easy to throw away. You're not an exception. If from minute one you flood someone with validation, attention, and access, you might feel generous, but you're quietly telling them, "This is how I treat anyone who gives me a little bit of interest." You match, and within hours you're sending long compliments. "You're amazing. I've never met anyone like you. You're so different from other people." You haven't earned those statements. You're just projecting your hunger. You rearrange your schedule instantly for them. You answer fast every time. You say yes to any time slot they offer, regardless of how disrespectful it is to your own life. You overshare personal details way too early. Childhood wounds, family secrets, traumas, deepest fears, all spilled out to someone who hasn't even shown up consistently for a week. You think this proves openness and trust. What it really proves is a lack of standards for who gets to sit in the front row of your psyche. From their side, the math is simple. If you pour this much into me, this soon, it's because you're starving. And if you're starving, you'd eat with almost anyone. That kills rarity. When something feels common and instantly available, the human brain tags it as errors disposable. The alternative is not playing cold or pretending you don't care. It's having clear standards for who gets your depth. You can be warm, but you don't hand the keys to your inner world to the first person who smiles at you. You reveal layers progressively. You let time and behavior decide how much access they earn. Mystery here isn't a trick. It's the natural result of having real depths and self-respect. There are parts of your life, your mind, your plans that only people who consistently show up get to see. When you stop selling yourself cheap and fast, two things happen. Low-effort people lose interest quickly, which is good, and those with real potential start to treat you like what you finally act like, something rare. Not a free sample. Law 6, you don't hear the soft no. Ignoring exit signals, most people don't go from "I'm obsessed with you" to "I vanish forever" in one day. They try to leave softly first. They send hints. You just don't want to hear them. So you force them into the only exit you can't argue with: silence. Soft exit signals are everywhere once you know what to look for. Replies get colder where there used to be enthusiasm. Now it's, "Yeah, a lol, okay." Response times stretch from minutes to hours to days. They cancel more than they confirm. "Let's reschedule. This week is crazy. We'll see." Every time you mention meeting up or doing something in the future, they change the subject, give non-answers, or ignore that part of your message completely. And what do? Act like it's still full speed ahead. You take their maybe as a yes. You treat their "sorry, I'm busy again" as if it were just bad luck instead of a pattern. You respond to their two-word answers with essays. You propose more plans, show more interest, pump in more energy, like someone trying to restart a dead engine by flooring the gas. From their perspective, you're not just oblivious, you're scary. You've shown that you won't accept the soft no. Every hint they drop gets ignored or overwritten by your enthusiasm. At some point, they realize, if I say this directly, he's going to argue, guilt trip, or refuse to let it go. So they choose the only boundary you can't chase disappearing. Ghosting becomes a defensive move. The Machiavellian alternative is ruthless but clean eyes hear the soft no. Respect the drop in energy instead of fighting it. When replies get colder, let yours cool too. When they cancel repeatedly, stop offering new dates. If every conversation avoids the idea of meeting or moving forward, you step back. Sometimes you even close it yourself, with one calm, grounded line. I'm sensing you're not really into this anymore, so I'll leave it here. No hard feelings. Then you actually leave it. No follow-ups. No just checking. That move does three things. It protects your self-respect. It stops you from wasting time trying to revive a corpse. And it marks you, in their mind, as someone safe to be honest with in the future. A man who can read a no without needing it carved in stone. Law 7, you ghost yourself first. It's easy to make ghosting all about them. Their cowardice, their immaturity, their lack of empathy. But there's a darker truth you don't like to touch most of the time. Other people are just acting out what you already do to yourself. You get ghosted on the outside because you've been ghosting yourself on the inside for years. Every time you ignore your own standards because it's better than being alone, you ghost yourself. When you accept lukewarm chats, half-assed effort, and being someone's late-night option, you're abandoning your own need for reciprocity and respect. When you let red flags slide, flackiness, disrespect, emotional games, just so you don't have to start over, you're telling your own soul, shut up. I'd rather be chosen than be honest. You call it patience. You call it understanding. You call it, I see the best in people. But at some point it stops being empathy and becomes self-betrayal. You stay where you're clearly not prioritized. You chase where you're clearly not wanted. You keep messaging long after the energy is dead. That's not them ghosting you. That's you refusing to show up for yourself. So when they finally vanish, it hurts like hell. But look at the pattern. They didn't erase you in one move. You've been erasing your own boundaries, your own goals, your own dignity step by step, just to keep the illusion alive. Their silence is only the final act of a play you co-wrote. The alternative is brutal, and it's the only way out. Decide that as you are the first person you refuse to ghost. You honor your time. You honor your boundaries. You honor your ambitions. When a situation turns disrespectful or one-sided, you don't beg for clarity. You provide it. You're the one who says, "This doesn't work for me," and cuts contact. That doesn't mean you never get rejected. It means you stop waiting to be silently discarded before you act. You become the man who walks away from anything that shrinks him, instead of the man who clings until someone else finally does the job he was too afraid to do. And once you move like that, ghosting stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts looking like what it really is, a filter that removes people who don't deserve a seat in your life. If you zoom out, these 7 laws aren't just tips to avoid ghosting. They describe 2 completely different men. The first one is the version of you that keeps getting left on read. He overinvests from day one. He sends essays to people who send him emojis. He clings at the first sign of distance, asking, "Did I do something wrong?" Again and again. He has no frame of his own, so he lets the other person decide what they are, when they talk, and how much he's allowed to want. He vents endlessly to anyone who listens, uses chats as therapy, overshares his entire life story with someone he met last week. He refuses to read signals because reading them would force him to face the truth. Their interest is lower than his. So he ignores the soft no, pretends everything is fine and waits. Waits for them to decide his fate. That man is easy to ghost. Not because he's worthless, but because he's heavy, predictable, and terrified of endings. He makes silence feel like the only clean escape. Now contrast that with the man you're building. He still wants connection, but he calibrates. He pays attention to effort on both sides. When interest is high, he meets it. When it drops, he doesn't panic and compensate. He lets it drop. He matches investment instead of drowning people in attention they didn't earn. He sets his own terms quietly through his behavior. His time has a structure. He doesn't take 2 a.m. you up. Texts seriously if what he wants is a sober, daylight life. He can enjoy flirting, but he knows what he's available for and what he's not. And his yes, no actually means something. He carries his own weight. His purpose, his friends, his training, his projects mean he doesn't outsource his emotional stability to whoever happens to be replying that week. He doesn't dump his entire trauma file on a stranger as a way to bond. He can be vulnerable, but he does it with people who've shown they can hold it. He keeps some mystery, not because he's playing a character, but because he has depth. There are parts of his mind, his plans, his struggle that aren't content for the group chat. People have to earn their way into those rooms. That makes his attention and his story feel rare, not mass-produced. And crucially, he reads the soft no. Cooler replies, repeated cancels, dodged plans. He doesn't argue with them. He sees them as what they are, information. Sometimes he mirrors the drift. Sometimes he closes the door himself with one calm line and then actually leaves it closed. He doesn't need a big dramatic goodbye to move on. What happens to a man like that? The dynamics shift. Do people still disappear sometimes? Of course. This is the social jungle, not Uncuento de Hadas. But it happens less, and when it does, it doesn't blow his mind apart. He doesn't spiral about his worth. He doesn't rewrite his whole identity because somebody couldn't send a text. He files it under data, adjusts, and keeps moving. Because he isn't radiating need and chaos, people feel safer around him. Safer to stay. Safer to be honest if they want to leave. That alone reduces ghosting dramatically. And the ones who do stick around tend to be higher quality. They're there because they're genuinely drawn to his life, his energy, his standards. Not because he begged enough. You're not aiming to be the man nobody ever leaves on read. That's impossible, and if it were possible, it would mean you never risked anything real. You're aiming to become the man whose value doesn't swing with every notification. The player who sees the board, reads the moves early, and, more often than not, is the one who steps back first, with dignity, when the game stops being worth playing.